Welcome to the Writing Witch's Realm, your audiobook of shadows, the podcast blessed by Hermes' helm and the air element that blows. Can you hear it on the air? The wind is telling a story, so join me in the witch's lair for tales and allegories. Can you hear upon the wind? A tale is being told about the seasons when the veil is thin and the magic lore of old. Here we speak of the seasons and elements and how to use their themes for healing, love, and self-development and manifesting dreams. With ancient wisdom to impart, with innovative clarity, expressed through words and sacred art, evoking peace and prosperity. Welcome, witches one and all, and the witchy curious too. Summer, winter, spring, and fall, we expand our point of view. I invite you to come and sit for a spell and brew a cup of tea. Hear the tale I have to tell. Welcome and blessed be. Greetings, magical mavens. It's Afura here, the Writing Witch. Along with our new cyclical living series on zodiac seasons, this year I'm also writing a new in-depth grimoire chapter on one magical subject that corresponds to each zodiac season. For Aries season, members of the Build Your Complete Grimoire tier of the Writing Witch Coven received the chapter I wrote on manifestation. Since Aries season is the astrological new year and encompasses themes of setting intentions and taking action on our goals and desires, I thought manifestation would be the perfect subject to focus on this time of year. In this video, I'm sharing what I feel are some of the most important things to know about manifestation, even going beyond the typical run-of-the-mill information that we often hear floating around in the spiritual community. These beautiful grimoire pages that are available exclusively to patrons at the grimoire building level are essentially a written transcript of the information we'll be covering in this video. New members gain instant access to a printable library of all my past subjects, which are not available in the Writing Witch shop or anywhere else, as well as the beautiful illustrated writing paper packs and junk journaling ephemera kits that accompany each subject. There's already several months worth of content available, worth way more than the cost of your membership, and in the first month you receive one of my handcrafted binders like this one in the mail. Also at a steep discount to what customers would pay in the Writing Witch shop. So if you would like to join us, this is your invitation. And without further ado, let's dive into the ins and outs of manifestation. So first things first, what even is manifestation? Well, the dictionary definition of manifestation is an act of manifesting, or the state of being manifested. Manifest as an adjective is readily perceived by the eye or the understanding. Evident, obvious, apparent, plain. As a verb, it's to make clear or evident to the eye or the understanding, to show plainly. While these are nowhere near as specific as the modern spiritual definitions of the word, I feel it's important to start with the original meaning, because it has a lot to teach us about our relationship to this concept. In the spiritual community, we've grown to associate the word manifestation with our own collective perception of concepts like the law of attraction, goal setting, casting spells for specific intentions and desires. Spiritualists tend to define manifestation as co-creating with the universe, creating results in one's outer reality by envisioning or embodying a like vibration to what it is that we want. It's typically based on the idea that we're connected to a divine intelligence that resonates with the proverb of ask and you shall receive, the Western perspective of karma, or like attracts like. This is due in part to the age-old idea that anything that becomes manifest in our physical realm must have existed first on the spiritual plane. A spiritual concept that appears in the real world is considered to be a manifestation. There are a lot of connotations, emotions, beliefs, and quote-unquote rules that have become wrapped up in the idea of manifestation, many of which can be useful, but there is also value in peeling back some of the layers of dogmatism to see manifestation for what it actually is in its simplest form, something theoretical made real. In its objective form, manifesting itself technically doesn't denote anything spiritual, magical, or ritualistic in nature. It's simply the state of something being or becoming apparent, obvious, evident, or understood. When we look at it in this simple of terms, it can actually liberate us from some of the more complicated or loaded connotations of what it means to be manifesting our desired reality, so to say. In this way, to manifest or to make something manifest really gets to mean whatever we decide it means for us personally. This is extremely important to be aware of, as there are a lot of voices in our communities trying to tell us the quote-unquote right and wrong ways to manifest successfully, which can actually hinder us from tapping into our own intuitive way of creating. When we feel into our own uninfluenced idea of how to make something theoretical real, we're able to explore our own personal superpowers. Being an air element-oriented witch, my most natural understanding of making something readily perceived by the eye or understanding, evident, obvious, apparent, or plain, comes in the form of expressing it as a solidified thought rather than a vague one. And furthermore, expressing or communicating that clarified idea in such a way that it becomes self-evident, like a painting from the mind of an artist or a poem spun from the inspiration of a creative writer. While I do tend to believe in several universal laws, one of which is the law of attraction, I try not to get too hung up on theories of exactly how or why these laws work, or what exactly we have to do quote-unquote correctly in order to experience their power. In my worldview, a big part of what makes something real is the belief or perception that it's real. And yes, that does mean that reality is rather fluid. As illustrated by quantum physics, our reality changes as our awareness changes, and our awareness changes as our reality changes. These things are always in constant flux and flow, and knowing this is key to acquiring wisdom. For me, manifestation is a delicate balance between responding to our outer reality and intentionally influencing our outer reality in accordance with our inner desires, effectively creating a positive feedback loop for ourselves. It's a balancing act between the human tendency to want to control or manipulate versus tapping into the universal flow of giving and receiving in a healthy, symbiotic way. It's only natural that our curiosity about the possibilities of manifestation should prompt us to get curious about the logistics of how the universe works. And in a future section, we'll dig deeper into the universal laws. But when it comes to actual manifestation, it's just as helpful to let go of the obsession with having to know all the details in favor of getting playfully curious and seeing what happens. In this section, we'll explore some practices that will help you get connected with your own inner guidance system to discover what manifestation looks and/or feels like for you personally. Next, let's take a look at manifestation styles. One super important aspect of manifestation that's often ignored or overlooked in the law of attraction community is the concept of manifestation styles. We often hear dogmatic assertions about how you have to be super specific about exactly what you want and be able to see it clearly in your mind, or you must be open-minded, let go of the details, and surrender to the flow of receiving. So which of these two opposite pieces of advice is actually true? Well, neither and both. Both of these ideas are valid, but neither is exclusively accurate. The art of manifestation is always a balance of both asking and receiving. Just like the wheel of the year and the moon phases, it's a cycle of alternating between action and rest. And which side of it we focus on more is dependent on where we're at in our own cycles as well as our own natural manifestation style. Human design, a personality typing modality which combines concepts such as natal astrology, I Ching, and the chakra system, offers a valuable perspective on why one-size-fits-all manifestation advice doesn't work for everyone. The idea is that depending on your unique energy type and life path, you may naturally be a specific or a non-specific /general/abstract manifester, and furthermore, that you are either a passive or an active manifester. Specific manifestors feel most aligned and in flow when they're getting crystal clear on the details of what they want, creating an accurate image of it in their mind's eye. And non-specific manifestors tend to lose their way when they try to focus too much on the specific details of what they want, preferring instead to focus mainly on how they wish to feel and embodying those desired emotions. Active manifestors align with their desires most effectively when they're actively involved in the creative process of manifesting what they want, while passive manifestors are more effective when they're letting go and allowing the process to happen on its own. It may seem that active manifestors would also be specific and that passive manifestors would also be general, but that's not the case. One can be both active and non-specific, while another person could be a passive specific manifestor and vice versa. But how could this be? Well, for example, I am an active, non-specific manifestor, so this means my manifestation efforts are most rewarding when I release attachment to any overly specific details about what I want and instead get clear on how I want to feel, and actively do whatever is necessary to allow myself to feel that way. Just because I'm most in flow when I'm actively creating doesn't mean that I have to be actively focusing on specific expectations of how my desires should manifest or even exactly what they're supposed to look like. It isn't really about taking any specific actions to make it happen directly. It's not about obsessing over the exact what or how, but by keeping myself occupied with activities that make me feel aligned with my intention, I'm able to embody the energy of my desire more and more until it becomes synonymous with my everyday life. This is just one example of a possible combination of active versus passive and specific versus non-specific. One could also be passive non-specific, passive specific, or active specific. To find out how your human design works, you'll need to know your accurate time of birth to calculate your human design chart. Websites like mybodygraph.com offer a free chart generator, and their software includes indicators of manifestation style. If the arrow on the lower right side of your chart is facing right, you're a non-specific manifestor. If it's pointing left, you're specific. If the arrow at the bottom left of your chart is pointing right, you're a passive manifestor. If it's pointing left, you're an active manifestor. This information can be very valuable as you're unlearning any dogmatic advice and relearning to trust your own natural way of being. That said, though, it's a reality that not everyone has their exact time of birth or is interested in the human design modality. In this case, my advice is to tune into your intuition to discover what your manifestation style is, or learn through experimentation. When I was first learning about this aspect of human design, I didn't even have to look at my chart to know that I must be a non-specific manifestor, because experience had already taught me that every time I've tried too hard to manifest something too specific, it seemed to either go horribly wrong, or it turned out far better than expected, but nothing like what I had had in mind. Next, let's have a look at some manifestation methods. Embrace an alchemical approach to manifesting by balancing the elements in your life. Select the elements that you feel most drawn to or that you feel needs a boost. Really, there are as many different manifestation methods out there as possible. We all have our own ways of aligning with our intentions, and the practices that you feel intuitively called to will often be the most powerful. But let's explore manifestation ideas for the elements. Depending on what elemental medicine you feel you need, you can select ideas off this menu to boost your manifestation power. Or you can pair these practices with our lunar astrology prompts, matching the elemental ritual with the element of the moon sign each week. Let's start with a few practices for the earth element. Number 1, gratitude journal. One of the most effective ways to become a quote-unquote vibrational match to your desires is to get grounded in the good vibes that are already present in your life. What you focus on grows, as they say, so take some time on a regular basis to be present with the good things that you already have going for you. Not only are you attracting more to be grateful for as you magnify your positive focus, but you're also building evidence of your ability to manifest what you want. By recognizing what's already working for you, you bolster your confidence that you can manifest even more. To take this practice a step further, you can also add some items into your gratitude list that haven't fully manifested yet. By getting in the habit of associating these things with things you already have, you'll normalize it and move closer to that reality. To make it feel even more authentic, you can even word these in such a way that it sounds true in the present tense, even if that means being a little vague. 2. Vision board. Harnessing the earth element is often about making the intangible tangible by looking for evidence that what you desire does already exist in the real world, and you're solidifying your belief and your intentions. By looking for evidence that what you desire does already exist in the real world, you're solidifying your belief and your intentions. Gather visual examples of the existence of the things you want in the real world and turn them into a collage that you'll be able to see and interact with daily. You can make this a digital wallpaper for your computer and your phone. But to ground it into 3D reality even further, you may wish to craft this by hand on poster board or print it out and frame it on your altar. To take this practice a step further, you can include a few pictures of things you've already manifested on your board. Again, this helps your subconscious mind to associate what you want as being just as possible as what you already have, helping you to attract them in. 3. Manifestation box. A step up from creating a vision board, you can make an even more physical representation of your intentions and charge it with your energy by physically interacting with it. You can get even more creative with a manifestation box. Include physical copies of the kinds of images that you would use in your vision board and keep them in a special box to flip through regularly. Or gather knickknacks that evoke your intentions and keep them in the box. You can use these items as the focal point for meditations or spell work or anything that you feel called to do with them. Moving on to the air element. Number 1 is visualization. If you enjoy picturing things clearly in your mind, practice doing this regularly. If it feels good to do so, envision as many details as you can and document your visions in a journal or express it in artistic forms as you create your desired reality. 2. Affirmations. For those of us who are less inclined to visualization, affirmations can work well. Rather than trying to force yourself to see the details of what something would look like, try describing it instead. If you're a specific manifestor, you can create present tense statements going into detail on what your ideal reality entails. If you're non-specific, these phrases can be more general and focus more on how you desire your reality to feel. To take this practice a step further, you can supercharge it with power words like I am. By using these magic words, you practice identifying with the version of you who is a perfect match to your desired reality. Embodying your intentions on an identity level is far more powerful than saying I want or I will. 3. Guided meditations or subliminals. Whether or not you're good at traditional meditation or visualization, guided meditations, visualizations, and subliminals can help your mind stay focused on your intentions even more easily and consistently. But the very best way to utilize these types of techniques is to create recordings of your own. This could even just be a matter of recording your own voice, reciting the affirmations from the exercise above, and playing them back to yourself each night before bed. To turn this into a subliminal, you can edit the recording to play super quiet with music or nature sounds over it, disguising it. This way, the words will bypass the second-guessing conscious mind and program the subconscious more easily. Fire element. Number 1, burn ceremonies. Being the element of transformation, fire can be used for both cleansing and manifesting. If you're being plagued with a lot of self-doubt, you may wish to perform a cleansing ceremony. This is where you write down all the negative thoughts that are holding you back and then burn them to symbolize destroying them and reclaiming your power. You can combine the paper with cleansing herbs like sage or thyme if you'd like. On the flip side, you can use the power of fire to transform your intentions into a ritualistic act, symbolizing the alchemical process of transformation. Write down your intentions and desires and symbolically burn them to represent offering them up to the universe to be called into your 3D reality. To get even witchier with it, you can include amplifying ingredients like Palo Santo, copal resin, or even a sparkler. 2. Setting boundaries. Part of embodying your desire is setting boundaries with yourself and with others to protect your energy and sovereignty. Write down or communicate your boundaries out loud. Specify what you are and are not willing to accept in your life, and continue tuning into your intuition to keep track of whether your current boundaries are serving you or if they need to be adjusted to better suit who you're becoming. 3. Acting as if. Get creative and come up with safe scenarios where you can get to act out aspects of your desired reality. This can be an elaborate role-playing ritual, or it can be much more subtle. For example, when I wanted to manifest a home with a yard in a more natural area, I started learning and practicing homesteading, gardening, and foraging in any ways I could while I was still living in an apartment. This helped me to identify as the kind of person who values and practices the same things someone who lives closer to nature would do. Not only was I attracting more of those types of experiences, but I was also learning the skills I would need to live that desired lifestyle. This helps to eliminate self-sabotaging thoughts and imposter syndrome, and helps you to get used to being the person you want to be in real life. Water. Number 1, scripting. Embody how your ideal reality would feel by getting into a meditative or inspired state and doing some creative writing. This isn't necessarily about being a great poetic writer. In fact, sometimes it's most effective to use an automatic writing technique. This is where you set a timer for a few minutes and free write whatever comes to mind when you think about how it feels to be living your desired reality. There's no need to filter or edit yourself. Just let the inspiration flow out of you and onto the page. The goal here is not necessarily to describe the tangibles in excruciating detail, although, if that feels good, go for it. Since water is the element of emotion, this ritual has a goal of embodying the desired feelings as you write. Go into as much or as little detail about the specifics as feels good to you. 2. Charging water. Did you know that you can program water with intention like a crystal? You can bring a glass of drinking water to any of the above rituals and set the intention for the water to be imbued with the energy of your intentions. Then you can drink the water like a potion. You can also simply practice mindfulness while pouring yourself a drink and imagining your hands charging the water with your intentions before drinking it. 3. Bathing rituals. Similar to charging your drinking water, you can charge an entire bathtub or shower faucet to magnify your intentions and nourish you with it as you soak. Get extra witchy with it if you'd like by adding bath-safe plants and crystals into your bath that correspond to your intentions. And that's our chapter on manifestation, at least for now. It's the first round of our chapter on manifestation. As we continue our epic grimoire building project, we'll be revisiting each topic and adding more advanced information and practices. In the meantime, we also have our manifestation-themed writing pages as a beautiful way to document anything that we're each learning or practicing in our own manifestation journeys. Or you can use those pages to journal about your experience practicing the techniques discussed in the chapter so far. They can also come in handy if you're drawn to any of the techniques that involve writing, such as affirmations, scripting, or methods like the ones discussed in my book, like the 3-6-9 and 5-5-5 method. So what are your favorite manifestation methods? What are your questions about manifestation? Perhaps we can cover some of these in a future installment. If you enjoyed this podcast episode and want an easy, readily accessible way to remember this information, again, I invite you to sign up for the Build Your Complete Grimoire tier of the Writing Witch Coven on Patreon. New members get instant access to the full library of printable chapters, as well as physical copies of the new chapters that are coming out. See you there, and until next time, blessed be. Thank you for listening to this chat in the Writing Witch's lair with Afura Nefertiti and her cat in our virtual fireside chair. Thank you for supporting the sacred art of paper, book, and pen. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.